All right, today I'm joined by Michael Reeder. Michael is a CPA. He owns Reeder CPA Group, and I'm excited to have you.
All the way from Europe, from Bulgaria today, Randy. So good morning to you and good afternoon to me.
What time is it in Bulgaria right now?
Oh gosh, right now I'm 7 hours ahead of East Coast, so
Okay.
It's a little after 6 p.m.
Awesome. So 11 a.m. Eastern time. Thanks for making the time, man. I know 6 is a tough time with the fam, but I appreciate it. It's good to talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really good to be here, Randy. It's been long overdue. And I normally work late hours when I'm over here. That just kind of comes with the territory when you're running a U.S. business from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it makes sense to mirror the time frame. Got to be available during Eastern time or Central time. I mean, you're originally from Chicago. Would you say you're based out of Chicago still, or fill me in on your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. I'm based out of Portland, Maine. My
Yeah.
wife, Mimi, and my daughter, Rayleigh, and myself, we've been in Maine since 21. Absolutely love it. Originally from Chicago, spent about 34 years of my life there. Love it. Still got all my family there. Still have an office. I own a CPA firm. We're going to dive into that. I own an office. I still have a little office space in Chicago. Honestly, the main reason I have it is because I have a couple admin employees there and a bookkeeper that like to get out of the house because they go stir crazy working from home. We have a little office in Chicago, but I opened a second office in Portland, Maine in January of 2024. And so I'm here in Bulgaria right now because my wife, Mimi, she's Bulgarian and her whole family still lives in Bulgaria. When our daughter was born back in June of 2020, it was right in the thick of COVID. We would always go to Bulgaria throughout the years. My wife and I have been together for 13 or 14 years. We would always go to Bulgaria for 2 or 3 weeks each year. And then we didn't go anywhere in 2020 because of the pregnancy and COVID. So we got through tax season of 21 in Chicago. And then in May of 21, we were just like, we have a kid now. Let's just go to Bulgaria and stay for a while. And so in 2021, we ended up staying there. I'm in Bulgaria now as we do this recording. We ended up staying here for 5 months in 21. I was able to work remotely, coming from Chicago, big city living. That's all I know at the time. And like when you stay, it's one thing to go to a little mountain village for a couple of weeks and then blink and you're back on an airplane. But like to stay for 5 months, I got into that small town rhythm of day-to-day life. And I was just done with Chicago after that. So like my wife and I were thinking, where do we want to go? When she first came to America back in the day, she did a work and travel visa in Southern Maine, to be specific. And her nostalgia for Southern Maine started coming up in the conversations. In October of 21, we had to go back to the States. So we flew into Boston instead of Chicago. We drove up to Portland, Airbnb'd on Eastern Promenade for a couple months, found a house in Falmouth in December of 21, and have been there ever since, bro.
Isn't that awesome? How you guys liking Maine?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. We got through another tax season. We got there in 21 and then we got through tax season of 22. I was able to work remotely when I was in Bulgaria so easily in 21. We ended up doing another 5 months in Bulgaria in 22. Yeah. And then we came back to Maine in September of 22 and we didn't go anywhere for 18 months. And so, my wife and daughter, we're homeschooling our daughter, and my wife and daughter pretty much like every day they wake up and they go to some farm or they go to the ocean, they go to some activity with the local homeschool community. And for me, I wake up, I'm in Falmouth, right? So I'm in West Falmouth by Harmon's Lunch. I drive over to Route 1. I do my thing at Planet Fitness. Then I just work. I either go to the office or I work out of the home office. And I built a community, I joined BNI in April of 23. That's how I met you. And I've formed a community. I tell people, I got a little emotional because now I'm in Bulgaria. When I was saying goodbye to my BNI chapter, I'm in the Portland Business Builders at Cumberland Club every Thursday morning. I've got my Chicago family, right? My family. I've got my Bulgaria family, my wife's family. And I got my Maine family, which is BNI and my network of real estate agents and mortgage lenders. And it's really like a family. You and I, Randy, we've known each other. I think we met at Coffee by Design in August of 23. So it's like we're coming up on a year of knowing each other.
Not funny.
Instant bros.
Yeah, seriously, man. We had a lot in common. It was fun. I mean, that's what kind of BNI does for people. Brings people together that you probably wouldn't have otherwise met. And then you find out all the things that you have in common. And we've been doing some business together too. So it's been an awesome thing, man. I'm glad you're enjoying your time in Maine. It really is an awesome spot to raise a family, safe. If you don't mind the 4 seasons, it doesn't get any better than the ocean, the beach, the mountains, all that stuff. It's a pretty sweet spot.
In summer of 23, so last summer, we went to Crescent Beach in Cape Elizabeth every weekend for 8 or 9 weeks straight.
Yeah. I grew up in Biddeford. We have awesome beaches here. And I grew up my whole life going to the beach every day in the summer or most days in the summer. And I just took that like that's normal. You know what I mean? But then you realize how lucky you are for someone that's grown up in the middle of the country. Or I've had plenty of friends that grew up an hour drive from the beach, 3-hour drive from the beach. It's nice to have access to that so close.
Lake Michigan is not the same as the Atlantic Ocean.
The times I've gone to Chicago, it's obviously huge, but it's not like the ocean.
Chicago is beautiful in its own right, and it's always home. Here I am coming to you live from Bulgaria. I've got team members in Maine. I've got team members in Chicago. I have team members across the country. I have clients in Maine, clients in Chicago, clients all across the country. So I don't have to be in Maine. I can still operate my business. And so that's, like my wife and I, we're going to go check out Prague for a couple of weeks later this week. We might go to Malta in a few months and post up in each spot for 2 or 3 weeks. As long as I have internet, I can work. We'll probably get back to Maine sometime in the fourth quarter this year. I might go to Chicago for a month. It's cool to be able to work from anywhere the way I've built my firm. We're based in Maine, but I really consider us a virtual CPA firm.
Yeah. You look at your website, you have dozens of employees, it seems like, plenty of people that are doing taxes for you. How does it go from someone that grows up in Chicago, decides they want to be a CPA, to eventually having your own virtual agency? Like, what's the progression of that?
Great questions. All credit to my wife. The firm that we now own, it's like the classic example of taking over a business, a broken business. The gentleman who I bought the firm from, great guy, up there in age. I think he's turning 82 next month. And he's a great guy, but he was very old school with everything that he did. Everything was like paper and pencil. When I first started working at the firm back in 2010, everything, paper file cabinet, a big, like a lot of square footage for a bunch of drawers with a bunch of paper files. We were doing lots of services manually when they should have been automated or digitized. When my wife started working for the firm, she came on board in 2013 because the one girl that was processing payroll for the approximate, I don't know, at the time, like 50 or 60 clients left to spend more time with her family. So it was an opening for my wife to come in, and she started noticing all of these inefficiencies. She digitized our payroll processing service and our file cabinet. Like we went cloud-based with our, now we have a digital file cabinet and all of our payroll services. It's obvious. I'm sure there are other CPA firms like the gentleman who I bought my firm from that haven't caught up with the times with technology. Now, when clients have to upload documents, we have a secure online portal that they can upload documents to. We process, any sort of payroll, all that's digital. Our file cabinet is digital. Our tax software is cloud-based, so we don't need to install it on everyone's computer. Anyone on the team, as long as they have internet, then and it's still secure, like the actual tax software company that, so it's been just a first things first, you have to have a digital infrastructure. Once you have a digital infrastructure, then you can go into having a virtual firm. It doesn't happen overnight. I now own the firm that hired me out of college, and I've been doing this for close to 14 years. I went through a lot of pain in this industry, especially the first 5 or 7 years in terms of not being tech savvy. It doesn't happen overnight. You're absolutely right.
Now that stuff's in place, it sounds like it's easy to scale. As you acquire new businesses, which you have done, it didn't just start with this first business that you acquired. You've been able to bring in other businesses into the Reeder CPA Group, and you're positioned well to continue doing that into the future, I imagine.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting thing that's going on in my industry right now. Yes, I have acquired a few smaller firms, small books of business in the Chicago suburbs back in 2014 and 2015. What I am doing now, first of all, I have found a lot of success hitting the Indeed circuit and finding good accounting and tax talent on Indeed, both older people and stay-at-home moms that are enrolled agents or CPAs that have a lot of experience and are not just motivated by money. They're motivated by, being able to work from home and autonomy of schedule, being able to stay busy for the, older workers and being at home with the kids for the stay-at-home moms. And that's been great. In my industry, there's a talent shortage because a lot of CPAs are getting up there in age and they're retiring. And then you have a lot of kids don't want to go into the industry, like they're coming out of college. Like it's not that easy to become a CPA. The requirements seem to keep getting harder. You have to have a bachelor's and a master's, and then you have to study for the exam. A lot of kids are just like, screw it, I'll just go work at a fintech company or something like that,
Yeah.
And then also like the deadline, the industry is stressful with deadlines and stuff. So you have all the people stuck in this industry right now. A lot of the smaller firms are at max capacity. If you're a small business owner and you go work for some of the mid-market firms, I won't name any names, those mid-market firms, minimum fees are super expensive and they are pricing out a lot of small businesses. And then all of the smaller firms in the middle, like I said, they're at max capacity. Even if they're working with a client, they're just doing the compliance. There's really no tax planning going on. There's no advisory going on. Small business owners, real estate investors, real estate professionals, a lot of the market out there needs more from their CPA as opposed to just filing taxes, and but the burden's on the CPAs to actually provide that service. I've made a few acquisitions and I want to make a few in the future, but the majority of my new business over the last several years is from the franchise marketplace. I've developed a nationwide network of franchise professionals that refer their franchise buying candidates that become franchisees in various different companies and industries. And
Any
so thanks
franchise.
a lot. Any franchise, any industry. Yeah. Like when people think of franchise, they think of like KFC and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And like or sports teams, right? The franchise business model exists in all different types of industries. You name it, like pet care, automotive, B2B services, home services, et cetera. Like, there's so many different industries that the franchise model exists in. And so that, and also building out my network. I came to Southern Maine because my wife and I wanted to live in a small town as opposed to a big city. Once we got settled in, I was like, all right, I'm here. I might as well develop a local, network and stuff. I quickly realized that there's like barely any other CPAs in Southern Maine that are taking on business. And so that's been great.
It seems like most CPAs are trying to get rid of a certain segment of their book, focus on the business planning side of things. It seems like there's an opportunity to get some new business coming into Southern Maine.
Exactly. And then there's also people like me that are looking at the map and seeing where to relocate to. The lady just relocated from Jersey to Maine, and she's an enrolled agent. And so I got connected to her from someone in BNI, and now she's going to be on our team. I'm starting to build a team of accounting and tax professionals in Southern Maine as opposed to just other parts of the country. But yeah, once you have the digital infrastructure and everyone can work remotely, I've got a full-time marketing guy, and he just pounds the pavement on Indeed and just goes through a bunch of resumes, separates the good from the bad, and then routes the good ones to my tax manager. He interviews them. And that's another competitive advantage that we have, because a lot of accountants don't have the time to go out and hire people, because that same accountant is the one that has to file all the tax returns, answer all the phone calls, do a lot of the bookkeeping. A lot of accountants have trouble scaling. I'm always focused on improvement. Today is better than where I was last year. Stay tuned to where I'm going to be this time next year. It's not like I've got it perfect, but I seem to be heading in the right direction in terms of building a digital firm that even if we get bigger and bigger, can still make every client feel like they, are getting that personalized service. And so it's just a matter of growing the professional team, right? You get more clients, you just have to hire more, professional service providers to provide the service.
Well done building out your team, because I've been in touch with a lot of those people on your team, and it seems like it's a very well-designed system, contact points, all that stuff. Thanks. It reminds me, I've seen it with you and other people I've worked with in the past. It seems like there's, maybe it's always been this way, but a movement to doing fee-based thing that's spread out throughout the course of the year with your customers, whether small business owners or real estate investors, where the customer is paying a certain fee per month, and that comes with quarterly phone calls and all that stuff. In the past, it was just you pay your fee, you do your taxes. Is this something new in the industry, or has it always been this way? Maybe I just wasn't one of the type of people that qualified for that sort of thing, but I imagine it makes sense for you to do that with a lot of your clients.
Yeah, so it is new in the industry, but it is something that's been going on more common over the last 10 or 15 years. And it's all a result of clients needing more than just filing taxes in March or April. Yeah. Clients need, and a lot of clients know that. And a lot of clients, they don't know it, but that's what they really need. The burden is on the CPA firm to actually provide that proactive service. And that's where we're talking about issues with talent shortages in the industry and being stretched too thin. Do they view it as an opportunity or a burden? A lot of them view it as a burden because January through April, you can't get a hold of so many accounting and tax professionals because they're slammed with tax season. After April, they just want to be on the golf course or the boat. That could also be time where they could really focus on improving their business. Then September, October comes along and you have mini tax season. Then you have fourth quarter, year-end planning, holidays. So there's limited times of the year. If you are in the accounting and tax industry, May through mid-August is a prime time to do business development for your firm if you're a CPA firm, and then also a little bit of time after October 15th. For the last 10 or 15 years, what I'm trying to do is to provide this monthly model, and I call it for core service of tax preparation and tax planning. That's the difference, because most firms are just tax preparers, and I consider myself a tax strategist. It's implied within being a tax strategist that you're going to prepare taxes, but it's also the strategic tax planning conversation that you have with people throughout the year. That's where the real value is. My team is going to be circling around with you, Randy, in the next month or two to check in about 2024, even if you were not to reach out. My team's going to be reaching out because that's part of the service. That's the being proactive. We're reaching out, regardless of if you reach out to us or not. If only clients reach out and then we respond, then we're being reactive, not proactive. Yeah. What I'm trying to do is deliver that monthly service for tax preparation and tax planning for clients at a reasonable fee. They call it CAS, C-A-S, Client Advisory Services. That's the buzzword that's going on in the industry. And there's lots of companies out there reaching out. I get hit up all the time on LinkedIn by various accounting and tax software companies. Hey, Mike, if you pay us a bunch of money, we'll train you on how to for your firm to offer client advisory services so you can make more fees from the clients that you already have. What I'm noticing about that's correct. That's the way that the industry should go. but the price points are just so expensive. I'm all about making money, right? But I just know that for certain size businesses, depending on what service, like bookkeeping, payroll, sales tax, fractional CFO, tax prep, and tax planning, fees are going to go up. I just know that when you try to get a small business owner out there, the Maine market is different than the New York or Chicago market. And so there's more price sensitivity for certain companies. You try to get someone to pay like $1,000 or $2,000 a month, they're instantly going to say thank you, but no thank you. So it's like, how do you offer that core service at a much lower price point? Obviously, you have to come in with lower costs, but you still have to deliver quality service. And so I'm trying to offer the CAS model at more competitive price points that are more doable for most small business owners out there. A lot of firms are trying to get rid of certain clients and focus on their bigger clients. Meanwhile, all those smaller clients that they're getting rid of, they still need services, right? They still need love too. And so I'm here to give them that love and to not cheapen the deliverable. It's not like we're saying, hey, pay me $2 and I'll just do a crap job on your tax return, or like I'll outsource it to India. To still provide quality service at more reasonable price points for a lot of small business owners out there that are just getting priced out by the bigger firms.
Do you feel like you're at capacity right now or approaching it?
No, because I've built the model, because I have the ability to switch on Indeed, have my marketing guy find a bunch of enrolled agents and CPAs. We just onboarded a CPA and an attorney within the last week. And that the CPA that I tell you, she's actually based in Maine. The attorney is in the DC area. I've got team members that are looking for work. There's another girl I met recently. She's based in Florida. She's an enrolled agent. There's talent out there, and I feel like there was a point within the last year and a half where I was hitting capacity, but now we've got the ability to onboard people, have them watch all the training videos that we put together in terms of how to navigate our tax software. So I'm really excited, man, because I really don't think I'm ever going to hit capacity because I can just keep finding the talent out there.
So it sounds like there's no bad referral for you at this point. You would take those people that need love, or maybe there are some. You can tell me about it, but it sounds like at least the low end people that really just need their tax returns done in March or April, those aren't even bad referrals for you at this point, all the way up to the businesses that need that $500,000 a month type planning.
Exactly. Like those small clients that would normally, maybe go to H&R Block, like they're going to get like a better service with us. We'll be able to charge them a price that's not backbreaking. And, I'll talk to anyone, like me and my team, like we'll talk to anyone to see if it's a good fit. If it seems like they're going to be really high maintenance or lowball us, we're already offering like a reasonable price and they try to bring us down even more. We'll talk to everyone. If we realize if it's not going to be a good fit, we'll draw the line in the sand somewhere, but we'll talk to anyone, whether it's a small individual client or a business doing 1 to 50 million.
Yeah. Now, pivoting a little bit, when you do take on a new client, is there a common thing you see in terms of mistakes or things people are doing wrong that you're able to fix for them on a quick new year tax returns? Or how does that part of things work?
Yeah, I see that it depends on is an individual only client. Are they a real estate investor, professional? Do they have a business or not? Depending on all of those factors, there could be things. There are times when the balance sheet on the prior year tax return is out of balance. If your income or your assets are under a certain threshold, then you don't have to report a balance sheet on a tax return. I've been trained to always report, there's a feature on the tax software that you can include the balance sheet no matter what. I always like to include that. I see a lot of people that own a lot of real estate, and it seems like they've never had the conversation of like, should they be considered a real estate professional for tax purposes? Have they at least had that conversation with their prior tax professional? Have they discussed the short-term rental loophole so they can still take advantage of ordinary losses on short-term rental properties as opposed to all of their long-term ones that are non-passive? Where I see it, the main thing is when I'm talking with clients, I'm honing in on real estate right now. Real estate tax planning, real estate professional, short-term rental loophole, cost segregation studies, 1031 exchanges, Delaware statutory trusts, tax credits. Are these things even talked about with other tax professionals? A lot of clients either know or very briefly, and that gets back to the difference between a tax strategist and a tax professional. Just a tax preparer. And so it's like in the small business, like what about retirement plans and all the different types of retirement plans? What about legitimately putting your teenage kids or your spouse on the payroll of your business? Just have, approaching fourth quarter, you're having a big year. Like what can we do to accelerate expenses, defer revenue? So a lot of the things that I see is like when I'm talking with clients and then within that first 30 to 60 minutes, they're like, Mike, you've asked me all these questions that my other CPA just never even asked me for years. That's the biggest thing that I see.
All the things you just mentioned were things that we've talked about, which is funny. Some of those things may have been things I've spoken in the past, but like the good majority of them are things that those conversations I had for the first time is when we spoke, so it is interesting to hear. Do you feel like if someone came up to me and was like, hey, I need an accountant that really understands real estate investing and all that sort of stuff, there's no reason I shouldn't send them to you, right? There's no like scenario that's like, you know what, I'm kind of good with those type of people.
Are you talking about a real estate investor and a real estate professional?
Yeah, just like someone that's like, a big portfolio. Like I need someone that's really going to like help tighten things up for me. Like, does that take someone at a further level of specialist, or is that something you feel totally comfortable handling, or you have someone on your team handle?
Yeah, I feel comfortable handling them. I have other CPAs and enrolled agents on the team that have a niche in real estate tax planning. There's a financial advisor who's actually in the process of becoming a partner in my firm. He has a very close relationship with a qualified intermediary for 1031s and DSTs. And so it's like he's not a CPA, but he's a financial advisor, but he's very well versed in 1031s and DSTs, and he knows like the tax implications and like the tax planning around it and stuff. So yeah, I've got a team of vetted professionals that can come in for certain things. I've got a great cost seg vendor that I work with. I have this one client, she's down in Alabama, and she was going to owe like 30 grand, but she has an Airbnb property, and we're going to move her from a Schedule E to a Schedule C. It's short-term rental, do a cost seg on it, and she's going to end up getting like $15,000 or $20,000 back.
That ends up being something that I end up talking to people a lot about, like cost segregation studies, that sort of stuff. So is that something you're seeing a lot of people wanting to do?
Yeah, I see a lot of people wanting to do it. What's interesting is I see the tax professionals they were working with before me were hesitant to do it. When you switch up to depreciable life, there's a process for that. There's this form that you can fill out, a 3115 change in accounting method. You submit that with the tax return. People are worried about, is this going to trigger an audit? The answer is no, but if it does, it's a certified cost segregation engineering study with a form 3515 change in it. So it's like, even if it does, you're going to pass the audit with flying colors because there's nothing to audit once you give them that certified engineering study for the cost segregation.
Are there certain things that trigger audits?
Definitely, for sure. Certain expenses like automobile expense or travel expense or meals and entertainment and repairs and maintenance it can be a trigger because sometimes on self-prepared tax returns and also for tax preparers that don't really know what they're doing, if there is an expense that should be like some sort of like capital improvement to a building that's like maybe $70,000 or $80,000, that should be capitalized as an asset and depreciated, even if it qualifies for bonus or Section 179 depreciation or spread out over 15, 27 and a half or 39 years. If the tax preparer or if the self-prepared person, if the taxpayer that self-prepares, if they just stick that $70,000 capital expenditure into repairs and maintenance, that can trigger an audit because that's easy for the IRS to say, oh, like they should have capitalized this, let's audit that. Auto, travel, meals, auto for people that claim mileage. If you were to get audited, you're supposed to have a contemporaneous log, a log that you contemporaneously update each, and there's apps for it, but like, and so it's just, it's like if you're too aggressive with your miles, you can get audited. If you don't have your log to substantiate it, then the IRS is going to disallow everything. And so, meals, the government just pretty much has put a flat, like there were a couple years during COVID where you can write off 100% of your meals, but now it's back to 50%. These are the things. And then also really just like self-preparing your tax return itself could be a red flag. That can be an audit trigger because that's low hanging. The IRS can just run some sort of filter on their end and be like, all right, here are all the returns that were prepared by some third-party professional, and here are all the ones that were self-prepared on TurboTax. Let's just audit these self-prepared ones because chances are these people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Which is the last thing I would want to do. Have you had customers that were involved in audits before personally? Or?
Yes, the answer is yes. The stuff that's triggered it were things done by the prior accountant or random selection. I was trained by some accountants in Chicago that have been doing tax and accounting since the 1960s. So I've learned certain things. There's lots of judgment calls and subjectivity in tax preparation. I believe that when you scale a bookkeeping, like when I scaled the bookkeeping division of my firm to a certain point, like eventually the bookkeeping, like data entry is going to have to be done offshore in the Philippines or India. And I feel like that's okay because bookkeeping is bookkeeping. And like, you can still like US bookkeepers be client facing. But I don't believe in offshoring tax prep for small business owners because there's so much subjectivity and judgment calls that go into it. Like the people that I have, like, like I was talking about Indeed earlier. It's not like we're just on Indeed and just like saying yes to everyone. We have a vetting process. Like we separate the good from the bad. We ask them, making sure that they have experience in the industry, working at other firms, having their own book of business. Everything that people learn is invaluable. You can't teach that. It just comes with experience. There are lots of things in tax where you can pose a question. to 10 different CPAs and get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
And like each one is not necessarily wrong. It's just like varying degrees of conservative advice, aggressive advice, or referred to as strategic advice. The tax code is written for the self-employed. The tax code is written for real estate professionals. And so like there are lots of opportunities, especially for those two avatars, where you could save money in taxes if you're proactive. I like to take advantage of as much as I can without crossing any lines. I call that being strategic. What was the last thing that you heard, Randy?
You're talking about proactive, not versus not proactive.
So the tax code is written for the self-employed and real estate professionals. There are opportunities in the tax code for those two aforementioned avatars to be strategic with their tax planning as opposed to conservative. Certain things that I like to do, I consider strategic. I don't consider it aggressive because I'm not crossing any lines, but I want to be able to go up to the line and not cross it. That's how I approach. I don't like to approach deductions from the standpoint of, can I write this off? Yes or no. I approach it from, how can we write this off? If there's no way that we can write it off, then we don't write it off. So I consider myself a tax strategist, and that's what separates a tax strategist from a tax preparer.
Makes sense. So there's two questions I want to ask you about your business. The first is, what's been your key to success in building your business? And I'll get to the other one.
So reading The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I feel like a long time ago, but yes.
He wrote it in the 90s. The E-Myth, as in the entrepreneurial myth, Revisited by Michael Gerber. It's a great book to read in terms of how to approach your day-to-day working on your business, building standard operating procedures, building a system-centric business, as opposed to just having a system-less business where everyone just comes to work every day putting out fires. How do you scale? How do you give rise to your inner entrepreneur and inner manager and suppress your inner technician? That book has been the most fundamental in terms of how to work on the business, as opposed to, you hear that all the time, work on and work in. And realistically, you have to do both, but it's like you have to work on the business. So reading the E-Myth and surrounding myself with a great team, being persistent. So I would say it's those three things. Like, that book has been instrumental, having a great team and being persistent, because the persistent is, that constant, like, coming to work every day, working on the business every day with energy and not getting too high, not getting too low. Whenever there's any sort of adversity, just keep moving forward. There's going to be good days and bad days. And then as time goes on, you keep building, the business is going to start taking form. The team is going to start taking form and all that type of stuff. And so I also credit I used to be really fat. I lost a bunch of weight. I put on some muscle over the last 5 years, intermittent fasting, cold showers, walks, and daily 45 minutes of weight training. Like, I'm going to go hit up the gym as soon as we're done here. Like, that's giving me the energy to attack it every day, plow through stress, not let stress affect me. So all of these things, you put them in a blender, mix them, and they have all been ingredients to be where I'm at with my business today. It's not like I'm at the pinnacle. It's not like I've reached the mountaintop. This is going to be a perpetual thing that I'm always focused on improvement. But all of those things, got to have the right mindset. That book has helped. To have a great team. When you have the right people on the team, they can take. It's like, I'm nothing without my team. And then just doing what I do to take care of myself in my day to day, so I can have the energy to stay persistent with keeping my eye on the prize and not letting the stresses of the day to day crumble me.
Yep. So a lot of the things that you said are things I hear a lot from people I have on the podcast. But one thing I don't hear enough about is persistence, which I think is just a huge thing. It's something I attribute any level of success that I've had where I've gotten in life. I do feel like persistence is a huge part of it. So I'm glad that you brought that up. People need to hear that. Persistence is such a huge thing. And the cold showers, man, which is totally different than persistence. But I sometimes take a cold shower and I'm like, Michael does this every single day. And I'm glad to hear you're still doing it. You're an animal. Cold showers are a wake-up call for sure.
Yeah, they are. And if you take one right in the morning when you wake up, it's refreshing. I did a couple of cold plunges in the ocean with my buddy Sergey Terrio, who's a chiropractor in my BNI group. We did a couple of cold plunges in the ocean and in Sebago Lake just this past February. So that was pretty intense. But yeah, a daily cold shower in the morning and at night after the hot shower to cool down is instrumental. Just to touch on persistence, I see the Gronkowski jersey back there. His dance partner for so many years was Tom Brady. And and if people talk, anyone that you talk to Tom Brady, or in all the interviews that, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, it's just they're always the first to enter and the last to leave the practice facility. They put in the work. There's nothing fancy about it. They just put in massive amounts of work. They're persistent with it. Julian Edelman will tell Tom Brady stories. It's just putting in massive amounts of work, no matter what your profession is.
100%. That's what those guys all have in common, is the work. People think it's God-given ability, luck, but it's the work, and persistence is a big part of that. So
absolutely.
The other question I was going to ask you, where I feel like a lot of the things you said kind of tie into this, but maybe I'm looking for more details. Like, what would you tell someone that is 22 years old, coming out of college, want to be in the accounting world somewhere, whether it's corporate accounting? What advice would you give to them?
I would tell them to just focus on getting the CPA, doing
Mm-hmm.
whatever it takes to get the CPA. Just get it done like in your early to mid 20s as soon as possible, because it's a pain in the butt exam. But just get it done. Take your time on it. I never failed one component of the 4-part exam, but I took my time on each component. I took 4 or 5 months on each one, but I never failed it. So it's like, do what you got to do to get the CPA. Once you get your CPA, that alone might bump your salary from like 40 or 45,000 to 75,000. The majority of the stuff that I learned on the CPA exam, I never apply. Like, everything is on the job training, but like, get the CPA. It might result in a bump in your salary, but what it does is it gives you street credit. The CPA has a lot of street credit in the real world. Oh, you're a CPA? No matter what you want to go into, you want to go into the big 4, you want to work in industry, or you want to work in public accounting, you're working with businesses. All businesses need an accountant, right? It's just an invaluable skill set that you're never gonna be without work. You're always gonna have something to do. You're always gonna be in demand, and that's why there's such an opportunity for accounting and tax professionals here in the mid 2020s, because there's a talent shortage, there's a labor shortage with accounting and taxes. But guess what? All businesses out there, no matter how big or small, and a bunch of individuals as well, need accountants. So it's like the market is like needs, so it's like, get your CPA out of the way sooner than later. And then the younger you are when you get your CPA, just throw yourself into the real world, whichever industry you want to go into, and your street credit, your market value, the dependency that others have on you is only going to snowball as time goes on.
Yep. That's good advice. The business. Loved all the information you shared. Before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit of basketball, if you're up for it.
I've been waiting. Yeah, I've been waiting for months, bro. I've been waiting for months. I know. We only got 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
You're a Chicago guy, a big Bulls guy.
Huge.
Tell me about the Bulls. Like, where's your head at with the Bulls?
I'm a huge Bulls and White Sox fan, and it's very frustrating because both teams are owned by Jerry Reinsdorf. And
doesn't like to spend money, right?
Doesn't like to spend money. He's 86, 87, 88 years old right now. He's a billionaire, and he's always going to make money. I was in Greece a couple weeks ago, just 2 hours south of here in Bulgaria, the home of the Greek freak.
The man.
Everyone has Michael Jordan jerseys. Michael Jordan created a global brand. Nike is profiting. Michael Jordan makes, like, I forgot what the number is, but he makes like several million a day just in like royalty stuff. But it's just like Michael Jordan, like Jerry Reinsdorf is obviously still profiting off of like Michael Jordan. Yeah, legendary franchise, right? The Bulls, and that's the main moneymaker. And the White Sox are, not. I mean, the White Sox still have their NWA made them famous in pop culture, like when Dr. Dre was like always wearing the White Sox hat in music videos and stuff. So like that, and so South Side of Chicago and stuff. Legendary teams with loyal followings. My great uncle had a restaurant supply company a few blocks away from Comiskey Park. And so even though we grew up on the north side of Chicago surrounded by Cubs fans, I'm a diehard White Sox fan. You grow up in Chicago in the 90s, you're going to be, I'm still chasing that high. I got a little bit with Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah in the early 2010s, but then Derrick Rose injured himself in the playoffs. Huge Bulls fan. 2 great franchises. Talking about entrepreneurs and businesses, right? Culture starts at the top, and like ownership. I wish that we had the Celtics ownership or the Golden State Warriors ownership. The Golden State Warriors go into the luxury tax every year, it seems. I'm sure the Celtics do too. They're going to have to, the guys they have on the team. But it's just like, if we have a team to justify it, then we'll do it. First of all, Zach LaVine, the whole relationship between Zach LaVine and the franchise is shattered. I do think that starting 5 of Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, and Jalen Smith, I would bring Vucevic off the bench, to be honest. Yeah. And I do think that starting 5, then they got like some shooters now. I do think that could rustle some feathers. I mean, they've been so like DeMar DeRozan. I love him. Great guy, great leader. Everyone loves DeMar wherever he goes, but there's a reason why he doesn't have a ring, in my humble opinion. Kawhi Leonard came instead of him in Toronto, and they got a ring because Kawhi Leonard is one of the best defenders in the game.
He's not a
DeMar is not a number one. Exactly. And then, it was unfortunate with the Lonzo Ball injury. Zach LaVine always seems to have injuries, but everyone thinks that they're going to tank this year and try to get Cooper Flag. That'll be pretty sick if we get Cooper Flag.
That'd be incredible.
We got Mateus Buzelis in the draft this year. He's pretty good. Chicago basketball is so electric. I can only imagine what it was like just this past year for you. The 3 greatest franchises, right, are not in any particular order. I'm sure we have our own opinions of what the order is, but it's the Celtics, Bulls, Lakers, and then everyone else comes underneath that in terms of historic franchises.
Totally. And I do feel
I
like
guess
the Bulls,
I guess the Knicks maybe, but the
the
Knicks
Knicks,
don't.
but
Yeah,
I put the Bulls and the Knicks maybe even on. I do think the Bulls are a level down from that. They didn't have to be. Like in '98 or even up until like 10 years ago, I would put the Lakers, Celtics, and Bulls on the same level. 6 championships and that whole run, but they've done nothing to carry it forward. They're not a free agent destination, the third biggest urban area in the country, and they're not able to sign some of these big guys. Something's off over there. Like you said, it does start at the top. Maybe at some
I
point
agree
that
with you.
starts to
I
turn
agree.
around.
Yeah, that's my Chicago bias, but I agree with you. It's like everything that happened since The Last Dance.
Yeah.
Jerry Krause he drafted Elton Brand and Tyson
And
Chandler.
they were a little frisky back then. There was a little something to him back then, but
John Paxson, Gar Forman were horrible. They've created this culture that no one wants to go to. For that reason, we're always going to sell out because of the nostalgia of Michael Jordan. I agree with you. The Celtics and Lakers are up here, and I would put Philly, New York, and Golden State up there as well, and then everyone else below.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't get to this point with the Patriots, but I could see a future like that with the Patriots. I don't know how much of a football guy you are, but now that Brady's gone, Belichick's gone, we have this shell. You got Drake May, whatever. Those type of quarterbacks are hit or miss. I have high hopes for him, but I had high hopes for Mac Jones too. So I'm a little bit jaded by that. We're in the middle of this week where, again, I don't know how much you follow this, but there's a receiver from the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, who is going to get traded from San Francisco. And the Patriots have the best offer for him, going to give him the most money, the best package to San Francisco. It is a done deal if he'll just say yes to signing the extension. And he won't do it. He doesn't want to come to New England. Here's a guy that has potential to be a top receiver. He just doesn't want to come to New England. Is that our future? Is our future post Tom Brady, the post Michael Jordan era that you guys had in Chicago?
I would be shocked if that's the case. What about Robert Kraft? I mean, what's his whole? Is he a cheap owner like Jerry Reinsdorf, or is he willing to bust out the checkbook?
He's been great, but it seems like it's been a bad year stretch for Kraft. He did a documentary that came out on Apple TV that was basically like a Belichick hit piece. There's just more and more reports about things that he did over the past few years and the way it ended with Brady and Belichick. And it's just some of his shine's kind of worn off. And plus he's old, like he's mid-80s. At some point he has to pass that ownership along to his son. He was on a pedestal for a while, and he's still one of those prominent owners in the NFL, but he's lost a little bit of his shine.
Well, I'm not a great
fan of you passing him.
Well, there's something about New England sports, about Boston sports that just, I mean, I don't know, are there just a bunch of smart sports analysts coming out of like Harvard and MIT? Like, I don't know what it is. I'm just kidding. I mean, like Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, and Celtics all seem to be well-functioning organizations that put out winning products consistently. And it pains me to say it, but like the best functioned organization in Chicago are the Cubs. And I hate the Cubs, but they are the best. They're owned by the Ricketts, and the Ricketts have come in. They went through, they tore everything down, won a World Series a few years after that, and were competitive a few years after that, going deep into the playoffs. And then they went through a rebuild, and I think they're not doing so good now, but they almost made the playoffs last year. Rebuild competitive twice, while the White Sox are still trying to I guess we had that little blip. COVID kind of screwed it up. That's Reinsdorf brought in Tony La Russa. Like that, just like idiotic.
He's old.
You won the World Series in 2011. The Cardinals beat the Rangers, and then you retired. Before that, you won the World Series with the Cardinals against the Tigers in 2006. It's like you won the World Series with Oakland with the Bash Bros way back in the day. You've got 3 rings. You retired in 2011, probably in your late 60s, early 70s or whatever. And it's like, just stop. He has he's very involved with these with these animal not-for-profits, and it's like, enjoy your life. You won. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what Theo Epstein is up to these days, but that man broke the curse of the Bambino and the Billy Goat curse. That guy's a legend.
What a run.
It's like ego is a powerful thing, but it's like, what else can I do? You break those 2 curses, go do something in private equity and business. You've already made your mark in sports. Jerome Bettis got his Super Bowl ring with Roethlisberger in 2005 when they beat the Seahawks. And what did Jerome Bettis do? He retired on top. What Brady did was pretty gangster, because he goes to Tampa Bay and wins his ring. He gets his Super Bowl ring number 7 with Tampa Bay, but he should have retired after that. It's like, that would have been, but then he tries, and then he goes out kind of like with the engine sputtering. He got his ring in Tampa and retire. If I were you, one man's opinion, I wouldn't be too worried about the Patriots entering some post-dynasty, 2 decades long thing. I think there's too many smart people over there. The fan base is too passionate. It seems like the ownership is too. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the
They
Patriots will
definitely
be
don't
competitive
want
again.
to suck.
And no one wants to suck, right?
But I mean,
Exactly.
it's like you say Reinsdorf. It's like, I don't know. It seems like he's perfectly okay in mediocrity. He's just more worried about profit and loss. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think of Kraft that way, or the Crafts in general. Like, I think they want to put a product out that wins. Even like Henry and whoever the guys that own the Red Sox nowadays, like, I don't think they want a winning team at this point. They want a team that makes money, and what they've done with the Red Sox is pretty sad. I'm not even really a fan anymore. It's just no fun. I don't even know any of the players on the team. Like, don't want owners like that. I don't think the Crafts are owners like that. So that maybe is the thing that would give me hope. But man, this week.
That's why I love what the Packers do. Like, they kind of have like almost like the Packers are like owned by like the fans. I don't exactly know how it works, but it's like yeah, how does it work?
I think it's very cool. I mean, I don't know the downside to it, but on the surface, the story, the idea of it sounds pretty appealing.
And they've been pretty competitive. Like, their Packers are always competitive. They haven't won a ring since 2010. Aaron Rodgers beats the Steelers. The Steelers running back that year was Rashard Mendenhall. I played football against him 2 years in high school in Chicago. No, I had a couple tackles against him. I met him at the line, like in the hole, and he drags me for a few yards and stuff. But yeah, that was crazy. But I mean, he had a real good run at University of Illinois. They went to the Rose Bowl, and then he was killing it for the Steelers for a few years. The Packers won in 2010. Right? Yeah. Then they haven't won since. They've obviously Aaron Rodgers took them to a bunch of NFC finals and stuff. They were never able to get over to the Super Bowl. What do you think? Do you think Caleb Williams is going to be a bust?
I don't know, man. He was weird. I was happy to not get him because I feel like you had to draft him at the first pick. I mean, and he could turn out to be awesome. He didn't seem like he really stepped up in college. USC had a pretty crappy year in his one big year. Didn't he have a press conference where he was hiding from the cameras or crying or something like that?
Crying, and he jumped up into the stands where his mom was and started crying. Yeah, he is eccentric. It seems like he's putting in the work and getting the respect of the locker room in Bears training camp right now, so we'll see what happens. But you have the burden of trying to be like the only good Chicago Bears, because like we had Jim McMahon when we won the Super Bowl in the mid 80s. He was decent, but he wasn't a star at all. It was just we had Walter Payton as running back, and he was on his way out already back then when the Bears won it. It was the Bears defense, like Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Dan Hampton.
They've never had a good quarterback, at least that I can remember.
Never. Yeah.
So
when
this would be cool.
To the Super Bowl, when we went to the Super Bowl against the Colts in 2006, we had Rex Grossman as our quarterback.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? But now they have Keenan Allen, right? They have some weapons for
Keenan Allen. What's his name? DJ Moore. They re-signed DJ Moore. Keenan Allen. They've got a couple good tight ends. They drafted Romo Dunes as well. They've got that guy Swift. I forget his first name, but it's that running back Swift. They got Khalil Herbert. So it should be good. They got Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator from the Seahawks.
I have nothing against the Bears. If they came out hot and they were a good team and Caleb Williams was good, that would be awesome. The league's better when we have good young quarterbacks and players to root for. I hope they are. They've just never been able to put it together since I've followed football. Yeah.
So I'll bring it back to basketball. Like I told you this time last year, it would be a disappointment if the Celtics, like anything short than the championships, they accomplished the mission. And I think that they should do it again. I don't see why the Celtics should not go back to back. I mean, they're bringing the whole team back. I'm so happy for Al Horford. I just want to give a shout out to. I always wanted. He's like the nicest guy, and he came out in the same draft class as Joakim Noah, right? 07.
He's old. He's got to be one of the oldest guys in the league outside of LeBron, which is an alien.
Udonis Haslem.
Has just retired last year or the year before. He's probably the only person from that draft class too. But hey, he's a great Celtics. The team's awesome. Like that stretch of watching playoff basketball this past year was some of the funnest basketball Celtics game to watch, and they were just such a fun team. Derek White's great. Drew Holiday's great. Obviously, Jalen and Tatum are unbelievable. It's just awesome team. And I think
Porzingis comes off the bench on like the game one of the finals and like dropped like 20 or something. That was crazy.
He had a sick block, nice dunk. He was hitting shots. It was an awesome team, man. I think next year they certainly have as good a chance as a championship team has to repeat. I think they're well positioned with the pieces.
Who can beat them in the East?
Yeah, no one. Freaking garbage. It would be the West, which is fine. Let them battle out between Minnesota and Denver and whoever else. I mean, not going to be the Lakers, not going to be Golden State, but yeah, let the West battle it out. And then we come out of the East. Philly always seems to fold when times get tough. The things that I don't like are just the weird Jalen stuff with being left off the Olympic team. Some of his comments. I don't like the way Tatum's playing in the Olympics. I worry that it sets him back, but he's just played so much basketball. Maybe he's just tired, but he doesn't seem like he's playing that well. I mean, obviously looking forward to the season, but just a couple things on my radar. But hey, man, we got the freaking championship.
You got the champion. Exactly. I'm still waiting. Since I watch The Last Dance on Netflix, every week and cry. But the Celtics, everyone was saying, including myself, they haven't really been tested in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell got injured at a certain point. Things kind of went their way. I thought that they were going to get tested by the Mavericks, and they just steamrolled the Mavericks. It is super fun to watch Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Like, that was fun. And like, now they have Klay Thompson. That should be interesting. But that's another. I think because of Mark Cuban, you have to put the Mavericks in the top 7 best franchises in the NBA. They got the ring against LeBron in 2011 with Dirk Nowitzki, and they went back to the playoffs last year. They got a lot of criticism the year before because they didn't even make the play-in, but they took a step back and then a step forward. Obviously, Kyrie is very controversial, but I have no idea who's going to beat the Celtics, assuming everyone stays healthy.
They're freaking out. And they're paying for it, too. All the extensions, talking about luxury tax, not this year, maybe next year. They might have to pay like $250 million in the luxury tax. I might be a little bit off on that, but it was in the 200 millions range. So I feel like they have a 2-year window with the team they have, and then they're going to have to start breaking that up just because the cost becomes prohibitive with all the luxury tax stuff. But I'm going to enjoy it while we can.
Yeah. Watch out for the Pacers. Didn't they go to the Eastern Conference Finals?
They did. And Halliburton's good. They got a good team. I think they won the in-season tournament this year. Or did Lakers win the in-season tournament?
I think the Lakers won it, yeah.
Lakers won, but I think they played the Pacers. They're definitely a good team. Halliburton was hurt. That was ultimately the thing that killed them in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they're a good team. Right. I don't think they're Celtics level.
At the beginning of the year, I was talking with one of my buddies. I said the Pacers are either going to go to the finals or be in the Eastern Conference Finals because they played the Bulls. They were just, I don't know, they reminded me of 2015, 2016 Golden State. Shooters all around, and they're just chucking up shots, and they're just like so fast, up-tempo, and it was just like, and when they're on, they just like run you out of the gym. And then they went through, and then getting Siakam slowed them down a little bit. Siakam is solid. He's got a ring. Maybe they don't have Buddy Hield anymore. I think he's on the Golden State Warriors now. Halliburton is no Steph Curry, but he's definitely high tempo, but maybe a little bit more shooters. I really like their big guy, Miles Turner. For the Pacers. I understand Brunson. I just think Thibodeau runs people into the ground. I mean, like he ran Jimmy Butler and Luol Deng into the ground. He ran Jimmy Butler into the ground in Minnesota. He's a great coach, but he runs people into the ground. And I don't think his style of basketball, he got close with Brunson, but didn't he go somewhere else? Yeah,
did he go
somewhere else? He went somewhere else. He got some money somewhere else. Anyways, I would be shocked if the Celtics lose. So, hey, like whatever's going on with the Patriots, at least you have the Celtics.
Exactly. My kids love the Celtics too. It's like a family affair watching the Celtics. So, basketball will be here before you know another 3 months.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Totally love it. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was fun talking to you. Thanks for taking the time from Bulgaria. Fun learning about the business, keys to success, all that stuff, and definitely getting some basketball, football talk in there as well. So appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure, Randy.
All right,
looking forward to seeing you soon when I get back there. Take care.
Absolutely, pal. All right, see ya.